every once in a while, man, I start working on a video and I get really jacked up. I get really excited because I discover things that people really do need to see. And, you know, the whole story surrounding all the BS about Donald Trump's visit to Arlington National Cemetery is one of those stories. And, you know, I didn't really dig too much into it in the beginning because honestly, I didn't really care. And it's not that I didn't think it was important. I didn't care because I knew that without a doubt, the garbage that the left was pushing was false. But I started digging in, and the story is actually pretty good. And of course, the actual intent, the actual events, and the real truth of what actually happened could not be any farther from the narrative that Kamala Harris and the left are trying to push.
They're simply trying to paint it as if Trump uses this as a campaign ploy to gain votes. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, if you look back to when we asked the White House to get together and have a family roundtable with them to discuss everything that happened, it was crickets. There was no reply whatsoever. We asked that of Trump. He said absolutely. He was going to give us 2 hours. Ended up being 6 hours.
Kelly Barnett invited the former president to Arlington. Her son, Marine Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, died at Abbey Gate. What would you say to people who may be pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever their politics might be, who just feel like that's not a place for politicians or for politics?
I would have to say, are you in my shoes? I invited him. My son was murdered under the Biden-Harris administration.
We invited President Trump. We invited Governor Cox. If they didn't come to us, we went to them and invited them.
Darlin Hoover says the outrage over the visit makes him angry.
There was nothing that should have been political about it. It has blown up into something that is absolutely ridiculous.
The man did not see an alleged altercation with the cemetery staff.
There was nothing of the sort. We didn't hear it. We didn't see it. We weren't told about it afterwards. Nothing.
Donald Trump has been receiving backlash for taking photos while visiting Hoover's son's grave. Critics claim it violated the rules of prohibiting campaign events at military cemeteries.
These are the people that the left, they don't want to hear from, right? But they're more than happy to speak on their behalf, right? And just think about where we're really at. You know, our government's bad leadership and worse decision-making created 13 more Gold Star families. And those families were abandoned, man. They were just as ignored and just as abandoned by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the people that we actually left in Afghanistan. And Donald Trump gets put through the freaking ringer once again for just daring to spend time with these families. I mean, can you even imagine just for a second what it must be like to be Donald Trump or anyone in that orbit, right? I've never seen anything like it. I mean, the guy can't do or say anything without the left literally losing their mind in propaganda fantasy. I mean, the guy talked about the destruction of the auto industry if Biden policies continue, and we still hear almost daily about the physical bloodbath that he promises if he loses, right? He called Byron Donalds one of the smart ones. And now we hear that Donald Trump said most other black people not named Byron Donalds aren't smart. I mean, it's insane. This is who these people are, man, and this is how they operate. And that's fine. You know, we get all that. But I don't think we should let them get away with doing it when it comes to our service members and their families.
Honestly, the way Biden and Harris have treated these families and ignored them and disrespected them after one of the most disastrous decisions that they made in this White House, to me, is the most despicable part of this. And look, there's a lot of opinions about this, and everybody's got comments, but the only opinion I really care about are the families in question. And they said, as J.D. Vance reported, we had given our approval for Trump's official videographer and photographer to attend. We cherish these memories forever. We're deeply grateful for the president for taking the time to honor our children and for standing alongside us in our grief. I mean, they put out a long statement saying they could not have been happier to have Donald Trump there at Arlington with them. And he's given them more than the time of day. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can't even do that. Only people who are so craven about this could try to turn something positive, which is Donald Trump spending time with Gold Star families, into some political garbage attack. That's what I think. The only people who matter are Gold Star families. They invited Trump. He went, and they're happy he was there. And if that's not good enough for the Democrats, you know, I don't know what to tell you.
Man, it seems like I say this at least once a day, but God bless Scott Jennings, man. I don't know how the guy does it. He spends every single day in that kind of environment with those kinds of people. But I'm glad that he's there, man. I mean, he nails it every day. And he's absolutely right, especially on this. The only people that matter are these Gold Star families. They invited Donald Trump and they were happy that he was there. That's it. That is the only thing that matters. That's the end of it, right? But literally everything else is just a bunch of faux outrage, manufactured anger by the Democrats. And to hear Kamala Harris, man, the last person in the room before we sent those kids to their death, talk about political stunts and sacred ground, it's enough to make you freaking sick.
Let me also ask you about another developing story, those new remarks from Trump about the Arlington National Cemetery controversy, and Vice President Harris just tweeting in the past hour or so, "Let me be clear, the former president disrespected sacred ground, all for the sake of a political stunt." Where does this controversy stand, Natasha?
Well, obviously, there is a lot of back and forth here. We heard some things from families who Trump, participated with, and they were very happy about Trump being there and honored by it. But for him to say that it wasn't political, there was social media, there was TikToks on this, and it was showing other grave sites for others who did not agree to have their loved ones shown and their grave sites shown. And so what it ultimately ended up doing was obfuscating what the Trump team wanted to do. And what they wanted to do was really hit home that the Afghanistan withdrawal was a disaster for Joe Biden. Is anyone talking about that? No, they're all talking about this incident with Trump and the back and forth. So it really kind of blew up in his face.
Can you even believe where we're at, man? Donald Trump gets invited to a cemetery to honor fallen service members with their families, and the left turns it into something negative, right? We get wall-to-wall freaking coverage of the Democrat reaction to Donald Trump at Arlington, when the real story these people should be talking about on every single one of these channels is why wasn't Kamala Harris there? Why wasn't Joe Biden there? Why haven't they reached out to these families at any time in any way within the last 3 years? And why hasn't there been any accountability at all at any level regarding the Afghanistan retreat and surrender? I mean, Donald Trump has made it a campaign policy to ask for the resignation of every single person involved by noon on Inauguration Day. Those are the stories, man. And every single bit of that is newsworthy. I mean, Donald Trump giving a thumbs up or taking a picture in a place that you're not supposed to take pictures, that's not a story. I mean, that's copium, man. And this girl, even after saying Afghanistan was a stain for Kamala and Joe, somehow she still thinks it blew up in Trump's face. But again, complete and total Democrat copium, man. Every single person that was there, the people that actually matter, are all coming out for Donald Trump.
Monday was the third anniversary of the 13 U.S. military service members who were killed in Afghanistan at Kabul Airport's Abbey Gate. That was August 26, 2021. 3 of the 13 are buried at the Arlington National Cemetery. Former President Donald Trump visited the cemetery following a leaf-laying ceremony to honor those who lost their lives that day. He did so at the invitation of the families. A video of the visit posted by the Trump campaign on TikTok showed the former president walking through Arlington and visiting grave sites. It's a violation of federal law to use cemetery footage for campaign purposes. Prior to Trump's visit to Section 60, that's an area in the cemetery largely reserved for the graves of those who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, campaign officials were made aware of federal laws which prohibit political campaign or election-related activities. They were asked not to take photos or videos for that purpose. The grounds are considered sacred and hallowed. An Army spokesperson said an employee who attempted to ensure adherence to these rules was, quote, abruptly pushed aside. The statement goes on to say, consistent with the decorum expected at ANC, this employee acted with professionalism and avoided further disruption. The incident was reported to the police department, but the employee subsequently decided not to press charges. Therefore, the Army considers this matter closed. Since Monday, accounts from the scene have varied. Former President Trump has insisted there was no violation of law. Communications director for the Trump campaign, Stephen Chung, posted on X that the campaign was granted access to have a photographer there. Chung also disputed claims of a physical altercation and has said there's video to back this up, yet none has been released thus far. Former President Trump published a statement on Truth Social from 5 family members thanking him for making the visit and saying, "We are deeply grateful to the president for taking the time to honor our children and for standing alongside us in our grief, offering his unwavering support during such a difficult time." Joining me now is one of those family members, Christy Shamblin, mother-in-law of Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole G. G, aged 23, was deployed to Afghanistan, where she served as a female engagement team member to help facilitate evacuation support for Afghan women and children. She was killed in a suicide attack along with 12 other service members that day, leaving behind a husband. Christy, thank you so much for being here. Please tell me about Nicole.
Oh, thank you for having me. Nicole was a ray of light. She was an encourager. She believed in having a positive mental attitude, and she was so very proud to be serving on with the FET team in Afghanistan. She was very, very proud to serve there, and they all worked so hard to get the most vulnerable out of that country before, certain death. And we're very proud of her. And we want to continue on her legacy and being encouraging and having a positive mental attitude.
This lady is a rock, by the way, man. She's amazing. She's been on CNN before. She is sharp, she's respectful, and she refuses to play their game. She doesn't want to be getting emotional on TV talking about bogus narrative. I mean, she doesn't want to talk about this garbage at all. She wants to talk about her fallen service members. She wants to talk about what we can do for the wounded. She doesn't want to talk about this garbage. But think about what she's saying. They invited everybody, and Donald Trump came. It was a private thing over with family members. It wasn't a stunt. There's no press there. It was for them. Donald Trump, the selfish, egomaniac narcissist, hung out with those families for 6 hours. And I would bet you the entire time he was there, he could not stop thinking and wishing that he had been president on that day, because that day never, ever would happen. And this lady, her name is Christy Shamblin, she knows it. She knows that too. And these propagandists, they want to get her on TV and try to get her to say that Donald Trump is some bad guy and that the whole thing was out of line. She's not going to fall for this lazy, lazy garbage.
I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm trying to understand what exactly went on Monday. You wanted the former president there. By the way, I think it's a wonderful thing that he was there, reflective and honoring our war dead. But it crossed a line at some point. How do you see it?
Well, first, I want to remind everybody that it's really hard to find a way on August 26th to celebrate, and we want to celebrate our heroes. We invited both President Trump and the Biden-Harris administration, and we didn't hear back from the White House. We were happy to welcome President Trump to lay wreaths with all 3 of our families and our wounded, some of our wounded from that day. And when he came to Section 60, it was at our request to spend time with our loved ones. There was not a press presence there. We privately took pictures among ourselves. And it was, a more celebratory feeling for that day, because we want to celebrate our loved ones, and it's very hard to find ways to do that at a cemetery. But they were very respectful. We didn't see any altercation, and really we just want our loved ones to be honored and remembered in a positive way.
So I hear and respect all of that. At the same time, I have to say he should not have used the video that was recorded in TikTok for a campaign purpose. Can we agree on that?
I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know what it is. But there's no political campaigning that was done at Section 60 that day.
Right.
It was a respectful
and
time.
I'm showing what was put on TikTok so that the audience can see it. And I recognize you might not be able to see it. We didn't lose one person in 18 months, says the narration. And then they took over that disaster, the leaving of Afghanistan. We lost 13 great people. I mean, it's got a message of saying, I did right by our soldiers, and Biden and Harris did not. I mean, up until that point, I get it. It's great that he's there. Family members want pictures. Terrific. Take the pictures. Do whatever the family members want. But he shouldn't have put it on TikTok for a political purpose.
Well, I just have to go back to, we really just want our kids to be remembered and honored. And it's unfortunate that we can't get that, in other ways. So we support President Trump, and he's supported us.
A final question, if I might. Do you worry that the legitimate issue of the way in which we left Afghanistan and the circumstances 3 years ago at Abbey Gate now sort of diminishes as an issue, because when people think of Afghanistan, the withdrawal, it'll be the controversy over Arlington instead of a very appropriate focus on the death of those 13? Final thought on that?
I think our media needs to do a better job of focusing on the Afghanistan withdrawal instead of things like this that aren't really relevant or important. I mean, we were very respectful. I understand that there may have been, a little bit of a misunderstanding, but we'd like to take the focus back to, just like you said, let's talk about how we left all the equipment behind. Let's talk about the Americans and the Afghans we left behind. Let's talk about the people we brought over that weren't vetted. Let's talk about the wounded. And that's what we want to bring focus back to. I appreciate that, because that's exactly what we want, the American people to focus on. We want our armed service members to be safer. We will have another evacuation. And if we don't start to focus on how to fix this, it will end in more casualties, and that's unacceptable.
Christy, Godspeed to you, your family, in particular your son. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely freaking nailed it, man. I mean, what a great answer to a really, really stupid question. And this guy asked her, what do you have to say about the fact that Donald Trump visited Arlington and then he put it on TikTok, which pissed off Kamala, pissed off the media. And now no one will ever remember your dead kid. All they're ever going to think about is Donald Trump and his selfishness. I mean, that's essentially what this dude asked, man. I do not know what the hell is wrong with these people. That might be the absolute dumbest, most ridiculous take or question I've ever seen on the topic of Afghanistan. But her answer was great. I mean, she says, if that's what people remember, then you're not doing your damn job, right? It's up to you. It's up to the media to hold these people accountable. The Taliban just gave a military parade with American machinery. Did the media talk about that? No, not really. I mean, Joe Biden forgot that these kids even died on the debate stage. They didn't really talk about that. 45 Americans came home seriously injured from Abbey Gate. And they've never really even interviewed even one of those people, right? And we know they're never going to, right? Because we understand the media's motives. We understand their agendas. And they have no intention of talking about Afghanistan or Abbey Gate or any of it, unless they can do it in a way that they think is going to hurt Donald Trump. I mean, this is who these people are, and this is what we're up against, man. But that's all I got, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.